But this one looks like it was on Scott Peterson and not on the Broward County Sheriff's Office, per se. Nonetheless, this is not stopping the agenda from rolling forward. Mika Brzezinski over on MSNBC, she says the NRA should be sued.
Some things have changed, at least in the state of Florida.
The NRA, with their inflammatory ads and threatening ads, should be sued and force them down. That does it for us this morning.
Okay, on what grounds should the NRA be sued? In order for you to sue somebody, you actually have to have legal grounds. There actually has to be a legal purpose for the suit. Otherwise, it'll be thrown out. But according to so many people on the left, lawsuits happen when you're angry at something. So you don't like the NRA's ads, you get to throw it out. Okay, the NRA was not responsible for this shooting. One of the most astonishing things I saw yesterday was Code Pink calling for an end to funding for JROTC on campus. They're saying, well, we don't want campuses militarized. We need to stop funding JROTC. There were 3 kids who were killed who were members of JROTC, and one of those kids actually threw himself in front of bullets to save other kids. While this idiot cop was standing around outside doing nothing, one of these students, a 15-year-old, he ran out there and he tried to stop the shooter, right? He got in the way of the bullets. He saved his students. He died in the process. And Code Pink is saying we should get rid of JROTC. Again, the big problem with evil is that evil cannot be prevented simply by legal mechanisms, usually. Evil can only be prevented by good people. It can only be prevented by good people doing the right things. And unfortunately, the left does not want to recognize the real possibility of human evil. They're just not interested in recognizing that possibility. It's pretty horrible. So, meanwhile, President Trump is embracing this new bill, the school safety bill. And the school safety bill really does not have much gun control attached. So everybody on the left is, of course, very upset about that. They thought that President Trump was going to break the impasse on gun control. That, of course, was never really going to happen. So in just a few minutes, I'm going to talk about what exactly is in the school safety bill, and we'll talk about that. But first, oh my gosh, there's so much going on in the world, and so much of it is caused by silliness on Twitter and MSNBC. The big story of the day, of course, is that over on MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough are in it with President Trump. And they're in it because yesterday, Mika Brzezinski attacked Trump on the air, and here is what she had to say about Trump. This is clip 3.
Fake covers of Time magazine. He was so needy, he had not been on Time yet, that he made his own, okay?
Oh my God.
This is your boss. This is your boss. He put this on display at least 5 of his clubs. It was first flagged by a reporter. Notice the use
Trump is sitting on out front, even TV.
Several exclamation points on the headline, something Time magazine doesn't do. The make-believe cover is dated March 1st, 2009, and highlights Trump's reality show, The Apprentice. Time magazine has since asked Trump to remove the phony cover. Phony. A phony, fake, pathetic, made-up cover of Time magazine.
You know,
that's your boss.
In an email to the Post, the White House couldn't comment on whether the president knew it wasn't a real cover.
Okay, so she called him needy, and then she talked about his tiny hands and all this kind of stuff. And so Trump fired back yesterday with that tweet about how Mika had had a bloody facelift and wanted to meet with him, and he said, no, I won't meet with her. Her face is all bloody. It's a weird bloody facelift, bloody. Okay, so Trump obviously, come on. What is going on? What is going on? What alternative universe did we stumble into? Every night I go to bed and I think the world can't get any stupider. And then every morning I wake up and I think, well, things were so much smarter last night. I mean, this is so dumb. And then it got dumber. So Trump did this routine yesterday where he tweets out about a bloody facelift, which is the president of the United States. For God's sake, man, grow a second layer of skin. For the love of God, get a shell, because this is ridiculous. I mean, if the worst that happens to you is Mika Brzezinski says something unkind about the size of your hands on national TV, get the hell over it. And Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, I mean, yes, they're TV clowns. I mean, why is this any surprise? So this morning, this becomes a very serious issue yesterday. A very, very serious issue. We must take it super seriously, right? We can't laugh about it. It's very serious. The president is a sexist. It's worse than Watergate. It's worse than Bill Clinton stooping an intern in the Oval Office. It is worse than FDR locking up all the Japanese folks in internment camps. It is worse than all of those things combined. The president said about Mika Brzezinski's bloody face. So, listen, do I think it's appropriate? No. Do I think that it's degrading to the country? Yes. Do I think it's degrading to the office of the presidency? Yes. But I think we've been degraded for a while. I think Trump is the culmination of a grand pattern toward the degradation of our civil society. In any case, everybody in the media just goes insane. So Mika and Joe, who are now married, I guess, they decide that they are going to skip their vacation and show back up this morning because, after all, as I said yesterday, the only people who benefit in this Trump, Mika Brzezinski, Joe Scarborough battle are the people who I just spoke about. right? And I guess us because it's amusing. But aside from that, the only people who benefit are the media, who like to cover this, and Trump, who likes to hit the media for his own side to go, yay, yeah! Okay, so in any case, they come out this morning and they say that the president is terrible and awful, and then they tell a story, okay? And the story is now making the rounds because they make a relatively serious accusation about the president of the United States using the power of his office to attempt to push them to change their coverage of him by essentially blackmailing them. Here's the story that they tell.
We got a call that, hey, the National Enquirer is going to run a negative story against you guys. And it was, Donald is friends with, the president is friends with the guy that runs the National Enquirer. And they said, if you call the president up and you apologize for your coverage, then he will pick up the phone and basically spike the story. I had, I will just say 3 people at the very top of the administration calling me, and the response was like, are you kidding me? I don't know what they have. Run a story? I'm not going to do it. The calls kept coming and kept coming, and they were like, call. You need to call. Please call. So, come on, Joe, just pick up the phone and call him. It's blackmail.
And let me explain what they were threatening. They were calling my children. They were calling close friends.
You're talking about the National Enquirer. Yeah.
And they were pinning the story on my ex-husband, who would absolutely never do that. So I knew immediately it was a lie and that they had nothing. And these calls persisted for quite some time. And then Joe had the conversations that he had with the White House where they said, oh, this could go away.
Okay, so this is a pretty heavy accusation that they're making right now, right? They're accusing the President of the United States and his top aides of threatening them with a bad National Enquirer story unless they apologize to the President of the United States for being mean to him. Now, is the story plausible? Sure, the story's plausible. I mean, why wouldn't it be plausible? Really? I mean, the President of the United States, when he was just candidate Trump, was very, very close to the National Enquirer, talked about how she would win a Pulitzer, repeated their headlines about Rafael Cruz murdering JFK and all this nonsense, and then said, oh, well, I didn't have anything to do with that. I have nothing to do with it. Okay. I didn't believe it then. I don't believe now that he has no relationship with the National Enquirer. But the National Enquirer, of course, denied all of this. The Daily Beast is reporting that Jared Kushner is one of the people who called up Joe Scarborough and urged him to apologize to President Trump. Okay, but here is the bigger question. Okay, and this actually is a bigger question because Trump being a blunt instrument of self-destruction is not anything remotely shocking, right? If he actually did this, and it's an if because Scarborough and Mika are alleging this, and he's saying he has texts to prove it. I assume that we'll see those texts sometime in the near future. Trump is saying that that's not what happened, that actually Scarborough called Trump and urged him to kill the National Enquirer story. Scarborough says, I have phone records showing that the calls went the other way. Okay, whatever. All of this is not shocking in any real way because all of the actors are acting just as you would expect them to act. I mean, President Trump is not only a bull in a china shop, he threatens people. He does. I mean, this is not like a big shock. It's not, and it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. But I have another question, and this is more about the media. Why didn't Mika and Joe reveal this when it happened? So they said that they told NBC News higher-ups. This happened apparently in April, early May. It is now, last I checked, late June. What happened in the last 2 months? Why didn't they reveal this at the time? Pretty devastating accusation, right? I mean, if at the time you come out and you say, this morning I got a call from the White House. There's a National Enquirer story that's about to run. It's a hit piece on me and Mika. And the President of the United States called me up and said that he wanted a personal apology from me or the National Enquirer was going to run the story. You don't think that's newsworthy? You don't think that's newsworthy? Why wouldn't you reveal that? And this demonstrates, the point that I'm making is this demonstrates the tacit game that is being played by the media and by Trump, by the White House and by the media, and it was true during Obama, it's true now. There's a tacit game that's being played to raise everybody's ratings and to keep attention on the media, and the last thing they want to do is destroy the game. What we are watching right now is a giant kabuki theater. What we are watching right now is WWE. If this were a legit fight, Joe Scarborough and Mika would have come out immediately and revealed this story. If the White House threatened me with coverage, you think I would hold that back, or do you think I would report that? I would report that the day of, right? The day of. Before the phone call was over, I'd be texting other media outlets. I mean, are you crazy? Why wouldn't I report that? That is the most newsworthy thing Mika and Joe have ever done. It's a lot more newsworthy than a coverage of Trump. But you can see the kabuki theater because now they have to come back and try and claim that this is all a giant shock to them. Right? They have to claim that this is all just a big surprise to them. So here are Mika and Joe this morning saying, well, you know, we never expected this from President Trump. Really? You want to talk about fake news? You never expected this from, never expected this from Donald J. Trump, the most public figure in probably American history? That guy? The one who's famous for firing people and bullying people and being a general jackass? You never expected this kind of behavior from, like, after last year when he insulted Heidi Cruz's looks via Twitter? After last year when he said that Carly Fiorina's face was reason not to vote for her? Really? That's the fake news. The fake news that Trump changed. Again,